Captain Jai-Ho Park stood at the window of the space station, looking at the strange ships outside. His hands were tight behind his back. Today was the big weapons show for the Galactic Confederation, and Earth had to show their best weapons. But he knew the aliens would laugh at them again. "Captain, it's time," said Dr. Ha-Won Kim. She held a datapad in her hands. Her face showed worry. "The presentation hall is ready." Jai-Ho nodded and straightened his blue uniform. "Let's get this over with." They walked through the bright halls of the station. Aliens of all kinds moved past them. Some had blue skin, others had 4 arms, and a few floated in the air. None of them paid much attention to the 2 humans. The presentation hall was huge. Hundreds of seats rose up like stairs, filled with beings from across the galaxy. At the front was a big screen and a small stage. Jai-Ho saw High Counselor Vex sitting in the front row. The tall, silver-skinned alien didn't even look up when the humans walked in. "Next presenter, Captain Jai-Ho Park of Earth, showing Earth's defense systems," said a voice from above. Jai-Ho walked to the stage. His steps echoed in the quiet room. He pressed a button, and pictures of Earth's best weapons appeared on the screen. "Earth has made new plasma guns and shield systems," he said clearly. "Our ships now have better." A laugh cut through the air. Then another. Soon many aliens were laughing. "They still use simple plasma," someone called out. "How primitive," said another voice. High Counselor Vex stood up. His silver skin gleamed under the lights. "Captain Park, while we appreciate Earth's efforts, these weapons are very basic. Some of our children's toys are more advanced." Jai-Ho felt his face get hot, but he kept his voice steady. "Our weapons may look simple, but they are effective." "Effective?" Vex smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Your whole planet has been part of the Confederation for 50 years, yet you still make weapons that were old when we first found you." More laughter filled the room. Jai-Ho saw Ha-Won looking at her datapad, trying to ignore the mockery. "We have other projects in development," Jai-Ho said. "Of course you do." Vex waved his hand. "Thank you for your presentation. Next speaker, please." Jai-Ho walked off the stage. His hands were shaking now, not from fear or shame, but from anger. In the hallway, Ha-Won stopped him. "Captain, I need to show you something." Her eyes were bright with excitement. While they were laughing, I was reading old records, very old records. "What kind of records?" She showed him her datapad. "I found references to a hidden place, a vault deep under the ice in Antarctica. The records are from before the last war, over 300 years ago." Jai-Ho looked at the screen. "A weapons vault." "Yes, and if these readings are right." She lowered her voice. "The weapons inside might be far more advanced than anything the Confederation has." Jai-Ho looked back at the presentation hall, where another alien was showing off their fancy quantum weapons. He thought about all the times humans had been laughed at, treated like children who didn't know better. "How soon can we check this vault?" he asked. "I can have a team ready in 3 days." Jai-Ho nodded. "Do it, but keep it quiet. If these weapons are real." He smiled for the first time that day. "Let's just say I look forward to our next presentation to the Confederation." As they walked away, more laughter echoed from the hall. But this time, Jai-Ho didn't mind. Soon, very soon, the laughter would stop. 3 days later, Jai-Ho looked out the window of the transport ship as it flew over Antarctica. The white ice stretched as far as he could see. Dr. Ha-Won sat next to him, checking her instruments. "The vault should be 2 kilometers below us," she said. "The ice has hidden it for centuries." Lieutenant Na-Young Choi, their pilot, brought the ship down carefully. The wind shook them, but her hands were steady on the controls. "Landing in 1 minute," she said. They wore thick white suits to protect them from the cold. The team of 10 people walked through the snow, following Ha-Won's readings. The wind howled around them. "Here," Ha-Won pointed to a spot that looked like all the others. "The entrance is below us." They set up their equipment. Hot drills began to melt the ice, making a tunnel straight down. It took 4 hours to reach the metal door hidden in the ice. Look at this. HFY touched the door. This metal. We don't make anything like this anymore. The door had strange writing on it. Not Korean, not English, not any language they knew. But next to the strange marks was a simple handprint scanner. Should we try it? Jaiho asked. HFY nodded. The records say any human should be able to open it. Jaiho took off his glove and pressed his hand to the scanner. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a soft blue light moved across his hand. The door made a deep sound, like an old bell, and began to open. Warm air rushed out. Lights came on inside, showing a long hallway that went deeper into the ice. How is there power after all these years? Nae-young asked. Let's find out, Jaiho said. They walked down the hallway. More lights came on as they moved. The walls were made of the same strange metal as the door. They passed empty rooms full of old desks and broken screens. This was some kind of research station, HFY said. She stopped at a big metal door. But this is what we came for. This door had a different scanner. It asked for 3 human hands. Jaiho, HFY, and Nae-young stepped forward. Ready? Jaiho asked. They nodded. They pressed their hands to the scanner. The door opened slowly, revealing a massive room. And in that room, by the stars, Nae-young whispered. Rows and rows of weapons lined the walls, but they didn't look like anything they had seen before. Some were small, like handguns, but made of materials that seemed to bend light around them. Others were huge, bigger than their transport ship, hanging from the ceiling. HFY walked to a weapon that looked like a rifle. These markings, they're the same as on the door. She picked it up carefully. The design is incredible. It's like they took everything we know about physics, and a deep hum filled the room. A voice spoke from hidden speakers. It used simple words, but they could hear power in it. Human presence detected. Weapon systems activating. Beginning integration protocols. The weapons began to glow with soft blue light. Screens lit up around the room, showing information in a language they could read. Captain, Nae-young said, looking at a screen. According to this, these aren't just weapons. They're better than anything the Confederation has. Way better. Jaiho looked at the glowing weapons. He thought about the laughter in the presentation hall. How many can we move? Sir, one of the team members called out. You need to see this first. They walked to where he stood. A huge screen covered the wall, showing a message. Warning, these weapons were sealed for a reason. The power they contain nearly destroyed us once. Use them wisely, or don't use them at all. The choice is yours. Jaiho looked at his team. They all understood what this meant. Earth now had a choice to make, and the whole galaxy would feel the results. 1 week after finding the vault, Jaiho stood in a secret testing facility under the ocean. Admiral Tai Yang Li had joined them to watch the first weapon test. The Admiral looked nervous, which was unusual for him. Are you sure about this? The Admiral asked, looking through the thick glass window. We need to know what these weapons can do, Jaiho said. The Confederation won't protect our colonies forever. In the testing room, Lieutenant Nae-young prepared one of the smaller weapons. It looked like a simple rifle, but its surface moved like water in the light. She had spent days studying how it worked. Ready for the first test, Nae-young said through the speaker. She aimed the weapon at a thick metal target. This target was made of the strongest material the Confederation had. Even their best weapons needed many shots to damage it. Begin when ready, Jaiho said. Nae-young took a breath and pulled the trigger. There was no bright flash, no loud noise, just a soft hum. A small dot of blue light hit the target. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the target began to change. The metal didn't melt or break. Instead, it simply came apart, like sand falling in an hourglass. In seconds, The target was gone. By the stars, Admiral Tai Yang whispered. What did it do? Dr. Hao-Wen checked her screens. It broke the bonds between atoms. Just the atoms it touched. No damage to anything else. No radiation. No heat. She looked up. This is beyond anything we thought possible. And this is one of the small weapons, Jai-Ho said. They tested more weapons that day. Each one showed power that made their best weapons look like toys. But each one also came with more warnings in that strange writing. Later, in the meeting room, Admiral Tai Yang looked at the test results. The Confederation must never know about this place, he said. If they find out. An alarm started to ring. Red lights flashed. Emergency message from Colony 7. A voice called out. They're under attack. They ran to the control room. On the big screen, they saw Colony 7. Ships they didn't know were attacking the human settlement. The colony's shields were failing. Where is the Confederation fleet? Jai-Ho asked. They say it's a minor problem. They won't send help for at least 2 days, an officer reported. Admiral Tai Yang's face got hard. 2 days. The colony will be gone in 2 hours. Jai-Ho looked at the weapons they had tested. They had promised to be careful with this power. But now their people were in danger. How fast can we get these weapons to Colony 7? He asked. Sir, Ne Young stepped forward. The transport ship we used in Antarctica, with the new drive we found in the vault. I can get there in 30 minutes. And you know how to use the weapons? She nodded. Yes, sir. Admiral Tai Yang looked worried. If we use these weapons, everyone will know what we found. The Confederation will want answers. Better that than losing our people, Jai-Ho said. He turned to Ne Young. Load the weapons. Take a small team. Protect the colony, but be careful. We don't want to start a war. Ne Young smiled. No war, sir. Just a demonstration. As she left to prepare, Jai-Ho looked at the Admiral. Send a message to the Confederation. Tell them we have the situation under control. They won't like that, the Admiral said. No, Jai-Ho agreed. But after today, they'll have to start taking us seriously. Lieutenant Ne Young's transport ship came out of faster-than-light travel near Colony 7. The sight made her grip her controls tighter. 5 large enemy ships were firing at the colony's failing shields. The colony's buildings were already showing damage. Status report, she said to her small team. Colony shields at 15%, reported Officer Min. Enemy ships are using standard energy weapons. Nothing special about them. Ne Young smiled. Good. That makes this easier. She opened a communication channel to all ships in the area. Attention unknown vessels. This is Lieutenant Ne Young Choi of Earth Defense. Stop your attack, or we will respond with force. The enemy ships stopped firing for a moment. Then a harsh voice answered. One small Earth ship. Leave now, and we might let you live. Last warning, Ne Young said calmly. Leave our colony alone. The enemy ships turned toward her. She could see their weapons powering up. Weapons free, she ordered. Remember what we practiced. Small bursts only. Her team activated the ancient weapons they had brought. The weapons hummed softly, like they were happy to be used again. The enemy ships fired first. Their energy beams shot toward Ne Young's transport. But the new shields they had found in the vault didn't just block the attacks. They absorbed them completely. Our turn, Ne Young said. Officer Min fired first. A small blue light hit one of the enemy ships. Just like in the test, the effect was amazing. A perfect circle of the ship's hull simply fell apart into dust. The enemy ship tried to turn away, but it was too late. Air rushed out of the hole, and the crew had to escape in small pods. The other enemy ships started to fire everything they had. None of it got through the shields. Ne Young's team fired back, carefully aiming at weapons and engines only. They didn't want to destroy the ships completely. In less than 5 minutes, all 5 enemy ships were floating helplessly in space. Their weapons were gone, turned to dust. Their engines were dead, but their crew areas were safe. Colony 7, this is Lieutenant Choi. Are you safe? We're fine, a shaking voice answered. What kind of weapons are those? We've never seen anything like them. New technology, Ne Young said simply. She opened a channel to the disabled enemy ships. We'll send rescue ships for your crews. Next time, remember, Earth is not defenseless. Her team started to cheer, but Ne Young raised her hand. Look, she said, pointing to her screens. Several ships were coming out of faster-than-light travel. She recognized them. Confederation ships. Right on time, she said with a small smile. 2 days late to help, but just in time to see what happened. Lieutenant, a very formal voice came through her communication system. It was High Counselor Vex himself. We detected unusual energy readings from this area. What exactly happened here? Ne Young thought about all the times the Confederation had looked down on Earth, all the times they had called humans primitive, all the times they had arrived late to help, saying human problems were too small to worry about. Nothing unusual, High Counselor, she said. We just handled a small problem. After all, isn't that what you always call our fights? Small problems. There was a long silence. When Vex spoke again, his voice was different. More careful, more respectful. The Confederation would be interested in discussing these new weapons of yours. I'm sure we'll be happy to discuss them at the next military exhibition, Ne Young said. I hear Earth has another presentation scheduled. We promise it will be much more interesting than the last one. 1 month after the battle at Colony 7, Captain Jai-Ho Park stood on the same presentation stage where the aliens had laughed at Earth's weapons. This time, the room was completely full. No one was laughing. High Counselor Vex sat in the front row again, but his silver face showed no smile today. Next to him sat leaders from every major species in the Confederation. They all watched Jai-Ho with careful eyes. 1 month ago, Jai-Ho began. Earth showed a small example of its true military power. Today, we will explain more. He looked at Dr. Howon, who stood ready with their presentation. But first, Jai-Ho continued, we need to talk about how the Confederation treats Earth, about how you ignore our calls for help, about how you laugh at our technology. That was unfortunate, Vex said quietly. The Confederation admits we may have been wrong about Earth's capabilities. May have been. Admiral Tai Yang stepped forward. He had insisted on coming to this presentation. Your ships watched our colony being attacked. You said it would take 2 days to help. Lieutenant Choi stopped the attack in 5 minutes. The room stayed quiet. Many aliens looked down at their hands or feet. We found something in the ice, Jai-Ho said. A vault from Earth's past. It showed us that humans were once far more advanced than we are now. More advanced than the Confederation is today. Ha-1 started showing pictures on the big screen. The weapons, the vault, the strange writing that humans had once used. We don't know what happened to that civilization, Ha-1 explained. But they left us their weapons. They left us a choice about how to use them. And how do you choose to use them? Vex asked carefully. Jai-Ho smiled. We choose to use them to protect our people, to defend our colonies. Nothing more. He paused. Unless we need to do more. Lieutenant Ne Young stepped forward next. She carried one of the smaller weapons from the vault. Several aliens moved back in their seats. Don't worry, she said. This one isn't turned on. But you've all seen what it can do. What all our new weapons can do. So we have a suggestion for the Confederation. Admiral Tai Yang spoke again. From now on, Earth will have an equal voice in all Confederation matters. Our people will be treated with respect. Our calls for help will be answered quickly. Is that clear? The alien leaders looked at each other. Then Vex stood up. The Confederation agrees, he said. Earth has proven itself. More capable than we knew. We would be honored to have humans as full and equal partners. Good, Jai-Ho said. Then let's talk about working together. About sharing knowledge. He looked at the weapon Ne Young held. These weapons are powerful, yes, but the real power is in choosing when not to use them. After the presentation, Ji-ho stood at the same window where he had stood a month ago. But this time, when aliens walked past him in the hallway, they nodded with respect. Some even stopped to talk. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Ha-won asked, joining him at the window. "Showing them our power instead of just using it." Ji-ho watched the ships outside. Human ships now flew among them as equals. "The warning in the vault said to use the weapons wisely," he said. "Sometimes the wisest use of power is just letting others know you have it. And if they forget again, if they start treating us badly again." Ji-ho smiled. "Then we'll invite them to another presentation." 3 months after Earth's presentation to the Confederation, Dr. Ha-won Kim stood in the ancient vault, studying the strange writing on the walls. More research teams had joined her now, all trying to understand the secrets of Earth's past. Dr. Kim called one of her assistants. "We found something new in the lower levels." Ha-won followed the assistant down long hallways they had recently cleared of ice. They reached a large room filled with screens and old machines, but what caught her attention was the middle of the room, where a hologram played in a loop. The hologram showed Earth from space, but it was different. Great cities covered whole continents. Ships that looked like silver birds flew between Earth and massive space stations. It was Earth from long ago, when humans had first built these weapons. "There's more," the assistant said. He pressed some buttons, and the hologram changed. Now it showed other planets, hundreds of them, all with human cities, human ships, human people. The ancient humans had not just lived on Earth. They had spread across many stars. "Have you told Captain Park about this?" Ha-won asked. "I'm right here." Ji-ho's voice came from the door. He walked in, looking at the hologram with wide eyes. "So this is why they left us the weapons. They knew we would reach the stars again someday." Lieutenant Ne Young came in behind him. She had been teaching other pilots how to use the vault's weapons. "Look at those ships," she said. "They're beautiful." "The Confederation has called a special meeting," Ji-ho said. "They want to discuss expanding human colonies. Now that they know what we can do, they're offering us more star systems to settle. They're afraid of us," Ne Young said. "No," Ha-won pointed at the hologram. "They're afraid of what we might become, what we once were." Admiral Tai Yang joined them in the room. He had been busy reorganizing Earth's defense fleet with the new weapons. "Let them be afraid," he said. "Fear can lead to respect, and respect can lead to true friendship." "Speaking of friendship," Ji-ho said, "the Confederation scientists want to work with us. They want to understand how our weapons work." "Should we tell them?" Ne Young asked. Ha-won looked at the hologram again. "We should learn first," she said. "Understand our own history. Then we can share knowledge with others who prove themselves worthy." "Worthy how?" the assistant asked. "By treating others with respect," Ji-ho said. "By helping those in need. By using power wisely." He smiled. "The same way we must prove ourselves worthy of these weapons." They stood together, watching the hologram show their ancestors' great civilization. Outside, snow fell on the Antarctic ice that had kept these secrets for so long. In space, human ships flew proud paths through the stars. And in meeting rooms across the galaxy, alien leaders spoke in worried voices about the humans who had surprised them all. Earth was changing again, growing again, reaching for the stars again. But this time, they had the wisdom of the past to guide them. This time, they would do things differently. "We have a lot of work to do," Ha-won said. "Yes," Ji-ho agreed. "And this time, no one will laugh at us while we do it." 1 year after finding the vault, Earth had changed in ways no one expected. Captain Ji-ho Park watched from the new space station as construction ships built Earth's first modern defense platform. The ships used designs they had found in the vault's databases. "The defense grid will be ready next month," Admiral Tai Yang said, standing next to him. 20 platforms around Earth, each one stronger than anything the Confederation has. And what do our new friends think about that? Jai-Ho asked. They're nervous, of course, but they can't complain. The Centauri Empire built similar defenses last year, and no one said anything to them. Dr. Ha-Won entered the observation room. She looked tired but happy. Captain, Admiral, you need to see this. We finally translated more of the ancient text. They followed her to her research station. Lieutenant Ne-Young was already there, looking at screens filled with the strange writing from the vault. Tell them what we found, Ne-Young said to Ha-Won. Her eyes were bright with excitement. The vault wasn't just a weapons storage, Ha-Won explained. It was a message. Our ancestors knew their civilization was about to fall. They knew they had gone too far, too fast, but they didn't want their children, us, to make the same mistakes. She showed them a new hologram. It displayed Earth as it was now, but then changed to show how it could be. Great cities that worked with nature instead of against it. Ships that could travel between stars without damaging space itself. Weapons that could defend without destroying. They left us a path to follow. Ha-Won said. A better way to build our civilization this time. The weapons were just the beginning. A way to get everyone's attention and protect ourselves while we grow. And now that we have their attention, Admiral Tai Yang asked. Now we show them what humans can really do, Jai-Ho said. Ne-Young, tell them about the new ships. Ne-Young stepped forward. We found designs for exploration vessels, ships built to find new worlds, to help other species to learn. She smiled. Ships that make our current fastest ships look like they're standing still. The Confederation won't like that, Admiral Tai Yang said. The Confederation doesn't have to like it, Jai-Ho replied. But they do have to accept it. We're not asking permission anymore. There's something else, Ha-Won said quietly. She pressed more buttons, and the hologram changed again. It showed a map of the galaxy with hundreds of points of light. These are other vaults. Our ancestors left them on many worlds, waiting for us to find them when we're ready. They all stood silent for a moment, thinking about what this meant. So what do we do now? Ne-Young asked. Jai-Ho looked out at the defense platform under construction. Then he looked at the star map showing all the places they could go, all the things they could learn. Now we do what our ancestors hoped we would, he said. We grow carefully this time. We build wisely. We explore the stars not to conquer them, but to understand them. He turned to his friends, and we help others do the same. Even the ones who laughed at us. Admiral Tai Yang asked with a small smile. Especially them, Jai-Ho said. Because that's how we prove we're better than they thought we were. That's how we prove we're better than we used to be. Outside the station, the defense platform's lights came on for the first time. They shone like new stars in Earth's sky, not as warnings, but as beacons of hope for humanity's new future. 5 years after finding the first vault, Captain Jai-Ho Park, now promoted to fleet commander, stood on the bridge of Earth's newest ship, the Explorer. The ship was built using both ancient and modern technology. It was the first of its kind in the galaxy, a vessel designed to help other worlds rather than fight them. Commander Park, Lieutenant Ne-Young called from her pilot station. We're receiving a distress signal from the Arcturus system. It's from the same species that attacked Colony 7 5 years ago. Jai-Ho remembered that day well. It was when everything changed for Earth. What kind of emergency? He asked. Their sun is becoming unstable. They need help evacuating 3 planets. Admiral Tai Yang's voice came through the communication system. The Confederation Council is meeting about this now. They say it will take months to organize a rescue fleet. Months they don't have, Dr. Ha-Won said, looking at her instruments. According to these readings, those planets have 2 weeks at most. Jai-Ho looked at his crew. They all knew what he was thinking. How long would it take us to reach them? With the new drive systems, Ne-Young checked her calculations. 3 days. And do we have room for refugees? The Explorer was built to carry 50,000 people, Young said. We can save at least that many. Jai-Ho nodded. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're going to help. The Confederation won't like us acting without their permission, Hadwan said. Again, they don't have to like it. Jai-Ho smiled. They just have to watch and learn. 3 days later, the explorer arrived at Arcturus. The sun was already showing signs of danger, shooting out huge flames into space. The 3 planets were crowded with scared people trying to escape. Their ships can only carry a few hundred people each, Young reported. They've barely evacuated anyone. Show them what the explorer can do, Jai-Ho ordered. The huge ship moved closer to the first planet. They activated the transport systems they had found in the vault's designs. Beams of soft blue light reached down to the planet's surface. First group coming aboard now, Hadwan said. The transport system is working perfectly. It's like our ancestors designed it exactly for this kind of rescue. Maybe they did, Jai-Ho said quietly. Hour after hour, the explorer saved people from the dying planets. The alien refugees were surprised to find themselves being rescued by humans, the same humans whose colony they had once attacked. Why are you helping us? One of their leaders asked Jai-Ho. After what we did. Because that's what strong people do, Jai-Ho answered. They help others, even former enemies, especially when those enemies admit their mistakes and ask for help. A week later, when the sun finally exploded, all 3 planets were empty. The explorer had saved over 40,000 people. The rest had been rescued by their own ships or by other Earth vessels that had come to help. The Confederation Council called an emergency meeting. They wanted to know why Earth had acted without permission. They wanted to know how humans had such advanced rescue technology. Jai-Ho attended the meeting. But this time, he didn't stand before them as someone seeking approval. He stood as someone showing them a better way. 5 years ago, you laughed at us for being primitive, he said. Today, we showed you what true advancement means. It's not about having the strongest weapons. It's about having the strongest will to help others.